I mean, my early look at the Eagles is I'm kind of amazed by their offseason. They had a really fantastic offseason. Feels like they upgraded just about every single part. And the biggest question remaining is probably quarterback, right? Jalen Hurts still has a lot of questions to answer, but the one question he doesn't have to answer is that he's a really big rushing threat. And that's something that the Lions have had an issue with, something they had an issue with in the preseason if you put much into the preseason. And then obviously the last year's matchup. So I feel like the Eagles are still going to be able to kind of control the ball on the ground a lot.
Hey, if you're tuned into the JAKIB Sports channel and you watched all the shows, then you know we get eagle with it. But to kick things off, it's like a jungle up in here. We got Pride of Detroit producer, shall we call him, Jeremy Reisman, making his Football Playbook debut. Jeremy, good morning and congrats on the, shall we call it a promotion there on the Pride of Detroit.
That's accurate. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate you having me this morning. I'm feeling great. It's week 1, man. I'm so excited.
Week 1, there's nobody more optimistic than Mr. Dan Campbell, right?
that's for sure.
It's the start of a fresh new season, but I can tell you what, I think nobody's grinning from ear to ear more than Coach Ric Serritella, and he won't admit it, but this was the turning point for the Eagles season last year. They were 2-5 coming into that Lions matchup, and they blow the roof off the building 44-6. How much we know the Eagles have gotten better. How much better have the Lions gotten? And how optimistic is Coach Campbell? I saw him on Hard Knocks, ready to go, roaring. Week 1 matchup.
It's interesting because I feel like that was definitely a turning point for the Eagles, and I also think after that game was kind of a turning point for the Lions because it was a huge wake up call for them. And you know they were winless up until that game, but they were competitive in just about every other game. So they go into the bye week with that kind of bitter taste in the mouth, and they come out and they win 3 out of their last 6 games. They go 3-3 down the stretch, and that kind of built a little bit of momentum going into this offseason. And they have a couple first round draft picks. They have some free agency money to spend. And I think more importantly, by the end of the last season, they had seen a lot of their young players develop. And that's what this team is all about. It's one of the youngest rosters in the team. I think it's second or third by average age. Last year, it was the youngest team. And so while they may not have made a bunch of splashy moves in free agency, they didn't make all the trades like the Eagles did this offseason. Their youth got better. That's what they've really been planning on. They're looking at this in a long-term view. So last year, their young players got better. They load up with more young players this year. They hope they get better by the end of the season. So I think you're going to see an improved team. You're certainly going to see one that is going to be a little bit more focused on stopping the run, because I feel like that was really the game changer in last year's matchup. Is the Eagles kind of found their groove in the running game while the Lions figured out they still had a lot of work to do there. And so Dan Campbell, he said this week, like he's been thinking about that Eagles game. If he were the Eagles, he would just kind of try to do the same game plan, and it's up for him to kind of stop it.
Well, football is a game of adapt and adjust. I think, you're right. The Eagles are going to be a run team first. That's their bread and butter. I would imagine the Detroit Lions, though, are also going to be a run-orientated team with the two-headed backfield there. You can kind of switch it up. I mean, I'm anticipating 30 carries between the two running backs. I mean, I don't think you want to put the ball in Jared Goff's hands and have him win a game for you. At the same time, I think the Lions coaching staff feels comfortable enough to kind of let him have his freedom and his reins, but eventually that's going to catch up to you and you're going to get burned somewhere along the line. At what point do they abandon the run game and have to just start passing it? Is it, hey, double digits by halftime? Is it a competitive game at halftime? How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think Dan Campbell is, he's kind of got a little bit of that old school mentality of establish the run and be physically imposing. And this is a team that has 3 first round picks on their offensive line. So they are going to want to run the ball. I think you're right on cue there. But yeah, I guess the question is how long can they hold that up? And it obviously a lot depends on how the game plays out. But Dan Campbell's a guy who's not going to abandon it in the first half unless we see a similar situation to last year. He's a guy that's going to want to stick with it because I think the passing game is going to be so heavily reliant on it. Like they're going to be a heavy play action team this year, and if they get behind, that play action is not going to be as effective. If they abandon the run, that play action isn't going to be as effective. But they add a couple of big outside receivers both in the middle of last year. You guys didn't see Josh Reynolds with the Lions last year, that he was a mid-season pickup. And obviously they go out and get DJ Chark this offseason as well. So they want to push the ball downfield through Jared Goff. It's just going to also heavily rely upon having that run game as a decoy. And so I think they're going to be pretty committed to the run throughout this entire game, assuming this doesn't, spiral out of control early.
Jeremy Reisman here from Pride of Detroit. Football Playbook here with you. You out there in the chat room, you got a question for Jeremy? Let him have it. Sticking on that offensive line, you're right. This is the strength of the team. The Lions have built from the inside out and done a really good job of it. They've got bookend tackles with Decker and Penei Sewell. Frank Ragnow, I think who you alluded to, is that other first-round pick. Now, former Eagles, Alapula Vate, the Big V, he is out. I saw him placed on IR. My guy Jonah Jackson, I didn't even plan this.
Yeah.
Rutgers transfer who finished his career at Ohio State. That's right. He looks like he'll get the starting nod. Drew Forbes from Southeast Missouri will back him up. Any concern? Will the Lions, do you think, favor to run to the right side more than the left side because of this injury?
Yeah, it's possible. We don't really know exactly how they plan on fixing the hole there. Like you said, Jonah will start on the left side almost certainly. They might decide to move him to the right side to fill a Big V spot. But I think more than likely, Tommy Kramer, a former Notre Dame guy who was an undrafted guy last year, but got a few starts just because the Lions' offensive line got beat up last year. He's kind of in line to start, which is definitely going to be the weak point. And so I think it would make sense for the Lions to potentially run away from him. But at the same time, Penei Sewell is such a physical force and great run blocker that I feel like they might still kind of just have that faith in Tommy Kramer and run to the right side, because he's the kind of offensive lineman that you can play, build an offense around. That's I think the expectations for a guy like Penei Sewell, and he had such a strong finish to the season that I don't see that changing in 2022.
Yeah, Tommy Kramer kind of fits that grit profile that Dan, I like that hat, by the way. I gotta.
So many Lions fans want that hat that they're not selling it though. They have so much
right?
they have so much in-house merchandise that everyone is seeing in Hard Knocks. Like, why can't I have that? Why can't I have that? But they want their little kind of group apparel, I guess.
Interesting. All right. Well, there's nothing preventing the bootleggers out there. Nobody's got a trademark on grit, right?
That's true. I'm sure that's true.
Hey Tone, we got a side business. Buckle up, man. We start get our guy on the horn here. But we're talking to Jeremy Reisman, who's doing a good job giving us the Lions perspective. I don't remember offhand. Maybe you do, Jeremy. TJ Hawkinson. When I look at the matchups here, the Eagles brought in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's been here not even a week, so I don't know how much he's going to play. But to me, he's the guy that should slide over and cover Hawkinson. Otherwise, I don't think they have a linebacker who can do it. Is this a mismatch that the Lions might look to explore and exploit?
Yeah, I think it's potentially something that they could do. Last year, him and Jared Goff really seemed to have this kind of bond, this connection, but it really only worked through the first month or two of the season because Lions simply didn't have a lot of other options, and teams would key in on TJ Hawkinson, and no one else would step up to the plate. But now, like I mentioned, with kind of the improved receiving room around them, the emergence of someone like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was just fantastic in the final 2 months of the season, you like to think that might open up some opportunities up the middle of the field for a guy like TJ Hawkinson. So really the best way to stop someone like Hawkinson is to have a big physical corner on him. And whether the Eagles have someone not like that on the roster, you could probably tell me a little bit better. But I think that's definitely something that I think the Lions are going to try to utilize as a mismatch because they have those outside options finally where they just didn't last year.
No, it's interesting. I mean, they could potentially slide James Bradbury into that spot, but then I think you run the risk, Avonte Maddox, does he go outside? I don't know, but you mentioned the new weapons. Maddox will be matched up on Josh Reynolds, who you mentioned. I would anticipate Bradbury on DJ Chark and Darius Slay on Amon-Ra St. Brown, he came on like gangbusters.
Yeah.
Down the stretch of the season there. And, the one area, both teams, stout running attack, built from the inside out, even on the defensive side with the addition of Hutchinson. They're doing it on both ends. One area where I think the Lions do have an advantage, though, is on the special teams.
Sure.
Khalif Raymond, he doesn't get much play as a wide receiver, but this young man, I've followed his career very thoroughly. He is capable of breaking loose some big runs here, and that could be the X factor that keeps this Lions team in the hunt for a little bit here.
Yeah, I think that's a keen observation. There was a point in training camp where, the Lions media just asked each player, who's the fastest guy on the team, and I'd say like 70% of them said Khalif Raymond. He's definitely a breakaway speed type of guy. He had kind of a modest year last year returning punts, but it's quite possible that he's returning kicks too, because the Lions are going to have a new guy doing that this year. Godwin Igwebuike did not make the team, so there's going to be someone new there. We're not, again, that's one of those things that we kind of just have to wait and figure out who they plan on using there. But we know that Khalif Raymond is capable of doing both, and yeah, he hasn't broken out a big one, I don't think, at the NFL level yet. But I think you're right. I think he's a guy that's capable of, if the Lions, create an alley for him, he's going to take it.
No doubt about it. Jeremy Reisman, producer here of Pride of Detroit. Make sure you go check out prideofdetroit.com. It's just about the best Lions website around that I could find. And you're doing a great job here, Jeremy. All right, prediction time. Drum roll, please. Eagles surprisingly only favored by, I think it's hovering around 4 points, something like that. We all know they won by almost 40 a year ago. Give us a final score prediction. How does this game play out?
Yeah, I typically write my previews on Friday, so I don't have an official prediction, but I'll throw one out here anyways, just for the just for being on air, and appreciate you giving me the time here. So, I mean, my early look at the Eagles is I'm kind of amazed by their offseason. They had a really fantastic offseason. It feels like they upgraded just about every single part. And the biggest question remaining is probably quarterback, right? Jalen Hurts still has a lot of questions to answer, but the one question he doesn't have to answer is that he's a really big rushing threat. And that's something that the Lions have had an issue with. It's something they had an issue with in the preseason, if you put much into the preseason, and then obviously the last year's matchup. So I feel like the Eagles are still going to be able to kind of control the ball on the ground a lot. I do like the Lions defense a little bit better. They added some key pieces, like you mentioned, Hutchinson, 6th-round pick. Malcolm Rodriguez has been kind of a hard knock star, but also a really, really good player. And getting a guy like Jeff Okudah back in the secondary could be a big help as well. That said, I think this is going to be one of those games where we see long possession. So therefore, I think the game does stay pretty close. But I think in general, I just think the Eagles have a much better roster right now. So maybe a little bit lower scoring than you'd expect, since both teams struggled defensively last year. But I'll go with Eagles 26, Lions 20.
All right. So close, but no cigar for the Detroit Lions in week 1. But
that's right.
We'll be rooting for them. At the very least, they won over a lot of fans with the personality of the team and everything we saw behind the scenes. And thank you for taking us inside the white lines. That's Jeremy Reisman, Pride of Detroit. What's the Twitter handle so folks can follow you? And what do you got going on? What's coming out next on Pride of Detroit?
Yeah, you can follow my personal Twitter account at Detroit Online. Plenty of Lions coverage there, or you can just follow the website at Pride of Detroit on Twitter. We got a whole bunch of stuff coming up. Lions Eagles preview podcast. We do a Madden simulation on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit, which is always just fun, where I'm basically just narrating a Madden game played by the computer. And yeah, just a whole bunch of fun other content at prideofdetroit.com. So make sure you go there.
All right, very cool. We definitely will. We appreciate the time. Buckle up. We're just getting started. We'll be back with more Eagles talk. We'll have Glenn Irby from the Eagles Newswire USA Today, powered by Ocean Casino and Resorts, right after this.